Flaring Force celebration. And
we are just recording, okay?
yes, we want to let you know we are recording, and we will make it available through various outlets. So if you don't want your picture on, you might take your video off, but we'd love to see your smiling face throughout the celebration. So this is the 5th annual Flaring Force celebration. The first one was on November 9th, 2017, back at Holy Names University in Oakland, as kind of a continuation of the Sophia Center and celebration of Thomas Berry's birthday, along with a special celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Universe Story book from 1992. That was the original idea, and then we put it on Thomas Berry's birthday because that's right around the time when it was first published back in 1992 in the Bay Area. So tonight we even continue on with that. We also I should also mention on the November 9th, the 2017 celebration was the first promulgation of the Universe Story calendar initiative, which we brought forth that night. And so it's the 5th version of that, which is being released tonight as well, of the Universe Story calendar. We'll talk more about those later. And in a special way tonight, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the release of the Journey of the Universe project, film, book, interviews. I'm sure I'm missing things, but it is a great night to celebrate the Universe Story process that we've all been learning about and coming together and singing about and writing poems about, writing books about, great work projects like the film, like the calendar. I know we're all in this great work, and the key with that Thomas, I think, would want us to remember tonight is celebration. It's a celebration of the universe, celebration of the earth community, and celebration of each of us as a member of the human community of beings, which we are celebrating in a special way. So thank you for being here. Just an honor to be a part of this. And we'd like to start off with a quote from Thomas Berry, which I just came across today in The Dream of the Earth, the first book that I read about Thomas Berry in 2005. And I think it really encapsulates what we're about tonight. It's from the introduction. Only through the story of how the universe came to be in the beginning and how it came to be as it is, does a person come to appreciate the meaning of life, or to derive the psychic energy needed to deal effectively with those crisis moments that occur in the life of the individual and in the life of society. It's only, Thomas Berry doesn't say only or must very often. So I take it with a very strong meaning, only through the story of how the universe came to be. And that's what we celebrate tonight. And so to begin in a celebratory, prayerful, reflective mode, once again, I asked Elizabeth McAnally to grace us with her presence, with her being, with her music, with a beginning to our celebration tonight.
Thank you,
Elizabeth?
Tom. Thank you. It's great to be with you all. Can you hear me okay? Yes. So I would like to just give gratitude, first of all, to Tom for organizing this event again, and for Pierre for doing our tech support, and Mary Evelyn and John and Brian and Sam. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you all for joining in. So I want to offer a few reflections and share a song. And to begin, I first want to offer gratitude to the indigenous peoples of the lands that we're all living on, the lands that we're all a part of. I'm here in Berkeley, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and this is the unceded land of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. And I want us all to, I encourage us all to learn more about the indigenous peoples who came before us and to learn how to create a deeper relationship with them. And so if you don't know of the people who came before you on this land that you're a part of, I encourage you to do some research. And so one thing that I'd like to share that I really think Thomas Berry and the Journey of the Universe really teach is this idea about right relationship and learning how to be in a mutually enhancing relationship with our whole Earth community. And so this is possible in all kinds of ways. And one way is getting in touch with the local land that you're a part of, and that can help you expand your sense of compassion to our larger Earth community, our living Earth community, and also the whole universe. So this idea of finding yourself in a deeper relationship, and also finding your place in the world, the place in the cosmos. I think that's one of the lasting teachings that I find from Thomas Berry in Journey of the Universe. So I'd like to share a song about finding place, finding a deeper relationship with place. And this song, I wrote this song about 10 years ago, and it was inspired by Tai Chi and Qigong practices that I do. One practice in this tradition it's called standing like a tree. And so this song is about standing like a tree. And as I sing it, I invite you to bring to mind one of your favorite trees and imagine what it might be like to be that tree. Try to embody that tree in your conscience and consciousness, and feel yourself connecting with our greater Earth community. So the lyrics are: sink deep, reach for the light, stand firm, sway with the breeze, kiss the soil, intertwine with life, drink water, and taste of the sweet fertility. So I'll sing it twice. It goes like this. Sink deep, reach for the light, stand firm, sway with the breeze, kiss the soil, intertwine with life, drink water, taste of the sweet fertility. Sink deep, reach for the light, stand firm, sway with the breeze, kiss the soil, intertwined with life, drink water, taste of the sweet fertility. Thank you so much. Back to you, Tom.
Beautiful, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for connecting us with the land, with trees, with the Earth community of beings. As we move on in our celebration, I just want to go over the continued order of our celebration. I'm going to give a little presentation here on the universe story and the universe story calendar, followed by Mary Evelyn and John and Brian and Sam. They'll give a presentation, and then at the end, they'll have time for questions and answers. And then we'll close at 6:15. But any of those people that want to stay on for another 15 minutes, Mary Evelyn and John said that they would hang around. I'll hang around, and Pierre will hang around. We'll have a great time. So we'll have more questions after that, but we'll formally end like we said we would at 6:15 Pacific Standard Time, 9:15 Eastern. Okay, and yeah, so
one quick thing, Pierre,
yeah.
can you into the chat? I sent you a message, Pierre. Okay, you're trying to get Brian in.
Oh, is Brian? Oh, Brian's here. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's trying to get in.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. So Tom, go ahead.
No problem. Yeah. So, as we all know, or most of us know, Thomas Berry, one of his most famous quotes to remind us over and over again to celebrate the universe story is that you can't tell any story unless you tell the universe story. And so in any presentation I usually give, I usually start off with some way of telling the new universe story that we have through our latest science, empirical science story, through the universe story book, through various avenues. So I'd like to share this story, this universe story song that I wrote as part of my Sophia Center dissertation, and just follow along with the words as I sing, as we open with the universe story through song. 13.8 billion years have passed since our glorious beginning, when our story of unity started unfolding our universe. Twinkle, twinkle came our stars, octillions in the trillion galaxies. 5 billion years ago, supernovae stars explode, birthing our sun and sun's planets, Earth and life through photosynthesis. Twinkle, twinkle came worms and fish 600 million years ago. Next came our land, insects and trees, dinosaurs, flowers, mammals and birds, up until whales swam in our seas 25 million years ago. Twinkle, twinkle, our human species joins our story 7 million years ago. For the last 1.6 million years, we humans discovered fire, speech, and music. Goddesses, agriculture, patriarchy, religions, industry, now consciousness. Now consciousness. Twinkle, twinkle, the universe story unfolds each precious moment in beauty. Twinkle, twinkle, the universe story. The universe story, our sacred story of today that gives us the comprehensive context for all of our being and doing and knowing as the human community beings and individual human beings that we are. And it was, like I mentioned, 4 years ago tonight, where we celebrated the 103rd anniversary of his birth of Thomas Berry, 25th anniversary of the Universe Story book, and the promulgation of the project of the Universe Story calendar, which came out of the Universe Story book in the Sophia Center. Like a lot of you, I know all of you are doing all your great work by promoting the Universe Story and the great work wherever you are. And this is just my cosmological role in the universe, and each of us have our different roles. But I wanted to share a little more in depth tonight about this project, because it's important that we all share what we're doing. And this is a good venue for that. And hopefully we can all share with one another our project's great work in celebration. So Pierre, if you'd put forward that first slide. This is one of the last pages of the calendar, which some of you have, of this year, but these are the publications of the Universe Story Calendar Initiative, which started formally 4 years ago tonight. And you can see the Universe Story book, the epic book by Brian Thomas Swimme and Thomas Berry, and in the middle on the top row. And on the right side of that, the Universe Story calendar. That was the first calendar that came out for the 2018 year. And on the left is the Universe Story calendar book, which I wrote because it's kind of a complicated process, this whole project, to go from the Gregorian calendar of 1582 to 2017, which told us that the universe only goes out to Saturn Day, Saturn Day, where now we know it goes out 13.77 billion years to the primordial flaring forth, or Big Bang, as some people call it. So there's a lot of changes, updating, as I call it, it's transcending, including, and updating of the Gregorian calendar of, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, to Universe Day, Milky Way Day, Solar System Day, Sun Day, Moon Day, Earth Day, and Humanity Day. Today is Earth Day Weekly. And in the Universe Story Calendar Initiative, this is the 209th Earth Day Weekly on the former Tuesday. And so we celebrate that because one Earth Day yearly on April 22nd isn't enough nowadays. We need to ramp it up. So that's one of the reasons why the universe nudged me to do this project, to get an Earth Day Weekly out there, to get a celebration of telling the universe story to our children every week and every year through the new 12 months of the year, which are based on the chapters of the Universe Story epic book by Thomas and Brian. And then below are the last 3 years of 2019, 2020, which focused on the 50th anniversary of Earth Day yearly from 1970 to 2020. And then this year, the brown one there, 2021, each year has a theme, and this year is the year of the human community of beings. And boy, do we need help as a human family in so many ways. And so that's this year. And then next year, 2022, Pierre, if you could please put up, this is the new cover for the 2022 year. And this coming year is the year of the individual human being. So we go from the human community of beings, the whole family, to each of us playing our role in the universe story. And so that's the focus this coming year, along with the overshoot predicament. If you know about the overshoot book by William Catton Jr., says that we are in an Earth overshoot of we're overshooting Earth's natural resources. Earth, oh, go back, Pierre, go back. There we go, stay there. Yeah, thank you. So we're celebrating we're working on it, especially now, right now on COP26, the United Nations, the overshoot predicament. So that's part of the calendar as well. And so we'll go into the this month, what it looks like, because it starts in October of each year, 16-month calendar. So this is the page for this month in the new calendar. It's also in the 2021 calendar. But as you can see up on top in the yellow, Sunday, Moon Day, Earth Day, Humanity Day, Universe Day, you can see the new days of the week that are listed. The first day of the new week would be Universe Day, because that's when the story starts. Because that's a whole story, but Sunday is the bedrock day because we don't need to change that. And Monday is actually Moon Day, and most of us know that. So it's a way of updating and celebrating each day. Today, I sang songs about Earth. I walked in the rain to celebrate the Earth. It's a way for teachers to celebrate with their students or families. A new day of the week besides Tuesday, Tui, the Germanic god of war, or Martis in Spanish, the god of war. I don't want to celebrate war anymore. I want to celebrate the Earth. So that's the calendar page. And then above each calendar page is an explanation page for that month. And here's the explanation page for this month. And it's got a couple quotes on the top from the Universe Story book. It focuses on the year of the human community of beings. And then a new addition this year is the overshoot. We need to focus on that. So there's a focus on it. And then there's also a drawdown.org solution listed, bamboo production. And then there's other information on the Universe Story. This one focuses, because it's 1543, Nation Science Month covers 1543 to 1950. Nicholas Copernicus is very much involved in that. And so that's just a little snippet of one of the months. And I want to let you know, if you want to contact me through my email, I can send you out a PDF to print, or we do have some limited number of hard copies. So Pierre, next slide, please. And so Mary, Evelyn, I just want to thank you so much for who you are, who you've been, the great work you've done. As I call, like Vandana Shiva, you're one of my Shiros. I know you worked on the Earth Charter, and I wrote a tune to the Earth Charter Preamble because it's so powerful. And I want to share that with everyone, but especially with you, Mary Evelyn, as you get ready to talk, for all the great work that you've done. We've all done great work, but you are outstanding in your field. So this is the preamble, and it fits very well with the COP26 talk. We stand at a critical moment in Earth's story, a time when humanity must choose our future. As our world becomes increasingly interdependent and fragile, our future at once holds great peril and great promise. To move forward, we must recognize that in the midst of our magnificent diversity of cultures and life forms, we are one human family and one Earth community with a common destiny. We must join together to bring forth a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. Towards this end, it is imperative that we, people of Earth, declare our responsibility to one another and to our greater community of life, and to our future generations of all species, as Thomas Berry would say. And lastly, Mary Evelyn and John and Sam and everyone, here's an original ticket from the West Coast premiere showing at the Victoria Theater on April 30th, 2011. So thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to Mary Evelyn and John and Sam and Brian, if Brian's there. I hope Brian's there.
Thank you so much, Tom. Pierre, are you able to get Brian in? We hope so.
The problem is that we have so many people. I didn't know that my Zoom allow only 100 people. So I don't know if Brian was able to get in.
No, not
I'm
yet.
allowing everybody to
Hi.
get in.
Hi, I'm happy to sign off. I love you all. Just wanted to say hello. This is Nancy Abrams.
Nancy,
Brian
thank
here,
you.
but I will sign off and let Brian sign in because it's so much more important that he be there. So have a wonderful celebration. I
Thank
love
you.
your work. Bye, guys.
Nancy, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay.
So let's
Pierre,
see if he can get in now.
can you let him
The,
know?
the room is open, so he should be able to.
I would sign off too, but I don't know how.
Okay, that's all right.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't need to.
Let's see if we
Okay, I
can-
texted him to try now.
Yeah, you should try now.
Okay. I'm sorry for others who might not have been able to get in as well. We should have.
This is the
Check
first
that out.
time that my Zoom has so many people.
Okay. Well, it's lovely to see you from all over the world, from China, from Europe, from Australia, from Canada. Such wonderful friends and fellow travelers in this great journey. So this is a exceedingly packed moment, isn't it? With the COP meetings in Glasgow right now, with 100,000 people on the streets, especially youth, Indigenous leaders, religious leaders, and many, many others trying to make a difference. And I think those three groups, youth, Indigenous leaders, and religious leaders in the religion and ecology movement, are totally at the head of this. And Bill McKibben just said in his New Yorker news column this evening that it is the youth that we need to support, intergenerational handshake, and so on. And that's one of the reasons we're so thrilled that Sam King, one of our graduate students here at Yale, is with us. He's the outreach coordinator for Journey of the Universe, but he's also worked hard with us to prepare massive open online courses, which we're going to release very soon in the World's Religions and Ecology on Yale Coursera, and you'll hear about that soon. We were going to begin with Brian, but we might. Is
Brian is there now.
Oh, good. All right. Excellent. So big
But
sign.
I'm all rattled. I'm all
Okay.
rattled.
All right. You don't have to begin. John will begin.
Good. Hi, Brian.
Yeah. Brian,
John.
Thank you so much. So we are celebrating one of the great, not just thinkers, but leaders, change makers of the 20th and 21st century, really. He's influenced so many people. 1,000 people came to his memorial, as you know, in New York. And that influence goes on and on with his books, with his transformative thinking, particularly for this new story and the great work. So we're going to have just a few reflections from John. Brian, when you're ready, I can go after John. So maybe we'll do John, myself, Brian, and then Sam. Just some brief reflections on Thomas, connection to Journey, and the importance of this moment of 10 years of book, film, conversations, MOOCs, and so much more that are all inspired by Thomas and Teilhard de Chardin. So John, why don't you lead us off with your stories and reflections?
There's so much to say, isn't there? And let me begin with gratitude for the organizers and Elizabeth for your beautiful introductory song. And I joined with Elizabeth also in remembering what Thomas I know would appreciate, that Mary Evelyn and I are here on the land of the Mashantucket, Quinnipiac, Mohican, Pequot peoples, and that my remembrance of Thomas follows from these remembrance of the indigenous First Nations in this part of the world. And I wanted to take us all to St. John the Divine Cathedral in New York, this large Gothic cathedral. And in 1975, there was a spiritual summit, and it was a grand coming together of religious leaders, religious practitioners, and a number of issues took place and discussions. But in one of them, Thomas moderated a panel on which were a number of very fine Buddhist, Islamic scholars, and Native American scholar, Lame Deer. And I want to tell the story that Thomas repeated quite often. And in fact, it's in the biography. Mary Evelyn included it, and I included it at the end of the Indigenous chapter. And this is the image. Lame Deer has now been called to the floor by Thomas Berry. And he stands up with his pipe cradled in his arms, and he looks around, and in that measured way of so many elders, he takes the time to bring all of us to what he's seeing. And he comments, this is an overwhelming place with which to engage the sacred. And he stops again. Lame Deer brings us into his own sense of presence in this place, and how the sacred must meet people in such a massive structural way. But after a moment of silence, he says, but for my people, we meet the sacred in a different place and in a different way. For us, we will always meet the sacred out of doors, out in the natural world, where we can feel the wind, the rain, the sun on our faces, where we can see all of our animal kin moving through this land. And he went on to explain and delivered his remarks then, but Thomas would say so many times during that golden year, 1978, when Brian Brown and Valerio Ortolani and myself lived with Thomas for a year, and we would reflect through meals at the Hudson River. And Thomas would often repeat the comment, that moment left an indelible mark on his thinking, that he felt what Lame Deer wanted to transmit to everyone at that moment. He felt an incredible presence of the human earth community and that relationship. And so I just wanted to reflect for a moment on what it is that I feel Thomas took from that moment. And in one word, I would say interiority. That Lame Deer was able to communicate something about his interiority that was in relationship with the subjectivity or the interiority of the world around him, that sense of communication, kinship and communication. So Thomas, I know, was very aware of the history of the encounter. So part of that interiority that Thomas was appreciating with Lame Deer was the sense of grief and endurance of the many First Nations peoples who had experienced the arrival of European cultures and civilizations, and that story that we are now trying to bring back into the telling. So that interiority that Thomas would describe in his work as a moral endurance, the sense of a moral victory of Indigenous people, and that moral victory adding to the capacity to endure. And along with that sense of moral victory, that interiority is certainly built upon a sense of kinship with the world around, and also the deep symbolic consciousness that could perform the relationships and rituals. So you can see the interiority as Thomas reflected on it began to deepen in his own thinking. And so the terms that he would use in some of his writings that are reflected, especially in Dream of the Earth, he would talk about nature mysticism of the peoples of the earth, and this sense of that capacity to be with, to hear the voices of those beings telling their story, and in understanding, along with Teilhard's realization of consciousness from the beginning of the flaring forth, and that lame deer and First Nations, indigenous peoples celebrated that primary experience, but also had an awareness of the secondary, the cultivation of one's interiority. So I wanted to bring that moment to our celebration tonight of Thomas's appreciation of an indigenous elder, speaking with love and respect for the cathedral setting, but realizing that his people needed to have that touch with the earth.
Thank you, John. That was really quite a moment, and Thomas never forgot it. And I want to pick up that thread of interiority. We all know that the seminal article that influenced everything Thomas did from 1978, The New Story. And he was over 60 when he published that, and his great work, actually, much of it emerged after 60, which is very hopeful, I think. But I want to just reflect on the differentiation, subjectivity, and communion, but I'm really going to touch on subjectivity. We know what difference means. We know it in all of our fingerprints, in snowflakes, in leaves, the difference of the world around us, the difference of humanity, and celebrating that is something that he certainly urged. But subjectivity is something that I think is still emerging in human consciousness, and it's critical to get to this notion of a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects, his most quoted phrase. So in moving from that, this is a difference that makes a difference, because it's something that may help us not destroy the living Earth community. Because we are living, as we know, in a 6th extinction period. Thomas identified this 25 years ago. The Hall of Biodiversity opened at the Natural History Museum and really signaled, even 25 years ago, that we're in the midst of an extinction period, but we have the possibility of stemming the tide of destruction. We know that relationships, interdependence, interconnection is the absolute foundation of the ecological sciences. And holism is certainly part of that from the world's religions. As John's just said, Native peoples understand this, all my relations, kin, and that is emerging around the world in an explosion of respect for indigenous worldviews and cosmovisions. But I just want to underscore that Confucians knew this, Taoists knew it. They had this sense of the vital force of qi within everything, wind, air, trees, and humans. Everything had its vital force, its inner reality. Buddhists realized this in the sentience of the more than human world. Zen gardens were alive with rocks, stones, moss, and trees. Hindus recognized it in the livingness of trees and rocks and rivers, all of which David Haberman has written about extensively. Shinto marking the space of forests, waterfalls, and rocks. So a majority of the world's religions have actually understood subjectivity. It may be the Western religions that need to catch up a little bit, but we need to give a big bow of recognition to Teilhard, of course, for his tremendous sense of the interiority, that the divine milieu, everything was reaching out to everything else because of interiority. He says the divine milieu, all the elements of the universe touch each other by that which is most inward and ultimate in them. And for Berry, the self-organizing dynamics leading to greater complexity and greater consciousness was at the heart of everything he worked on, especially with Brian in Universe Story. But I want to just also highlight the fact that this sense of sentience, this sense of consciousness, differentiated multiple consciousness, is emerging in all kinds of magnificent ways. And that is, I just want to touch on plants and trees for a start. The hidden life of trees, for example, the sense of Robin Kimmerer's The Language of Trees, and so on. She has a beautiful passage about octopi solve puzzles, chickadees create language, crows make tools, rats feel anxiety, elephants mourn, parrots do calculus, apes read symbols, honeybees dance, the result of cost-benefit analysis of sucrose and rewards like an economic ballet. So we are getting from scientists like Robin and many others this tremendous sense of the intelligence of plants with photosynthesis, creating food from light, trees with their roots and fungi communication. Suzanne Simard with the symbiotic relationships of roots and fungi and so on. Her TED Talk has gained 5 million viewers. Her new book, Finding the Mother Tree, Discovering the Wisdom of the Forest, is a new bestseller, and a film is being made about her. And I just want to point out how astonishing this is, if you will, in that we had a recent conversation here at Yale with Orion and our forest school, with 3 of these great writers, Robin, David Haskell with The Song of Trees, and Robert McFarland from the UK. 9,000 people signed up for this because they are so hungry for that sense of the interiority, the livingness of things. The Yale School of the Environment was stunned. And we're going to do another one with the author of Hidden Life of Trees, and hopefully with this woman who's written How I Became a Tree, Sumana Roy. It's an absolute fabulous book. So I could go on, and I will for just a few minutes, on migrations, on fish intelligence of salmon finding their way back to spawning grounds, mammals, the caribou, and the reindeer up in Sami country who return to the calving grounds. Communications are multiple in dolphin songs, whale songs, birds, mating calls, dances. We have the bower bird in Journey, obviously, and so on. So all of these kinds of intelligences, named incidentally, emotional intelligences, like elephants mourning their dead that Cynthia Moss identified. Mark Beckhoff, a deep admirer of Thomas Berry and a friend of many of us, he says, this grieving goes on in wolves and giraffes and chimps and dolphins, that of course animals experience pain and grief, as we were trying to say in Journey, in the film especially. Animals have culture. Animals have sentience, animals have feeling. I think most of us know this, but it is still not widespread. But I'm suggesting that because of these writers, these animal behavior people, the field is exploding, and this is tremendous for the changes that are needed ahead. Because just to conclude, so what's the significance of this? I love all these examples, by the way, and I know many of you, your minds are popping with other examples. And as we take these examples, which are inspiring us in awe and wonder and beauty and complexity, what's the significance here? What are the implications? And I'll just say maybe 2 things. One is, of course, and this is the message of Journey too, of extending care and compassion to the more than human world, to humans in the more than human world. And that's what we were trying to identify in this book that's online, also The Living Earth Community, that Sam Mickey helped to edit. But this is true in things like the cosmic common good that Dan Scheid at Duquesne has written, the rights of nature, that rivers have rights, an expansive environmental ethics, eco-justice, environmental justice with Paloma and Carl and Drew and Belvy working in this area, and we thank them for that work. And the Laudato Si of the Pope, the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, this extension of care and compassion to the human and more than human world. And the second, I think, implication is that embracing creativity beyond the human is something where new humility comes into play. We're trying to align with the creative processes of Earth, and the elements offer us ways for creative, renewable, and sustainable energies. This is a big topic at COP, but we've got to get the large picture of this, aligning with the powers of universe and Earth, as Brian's work has showed over and over again. Earth, geothermal energy, air, wind power, fire, solar power, water, appropriate hydropower, and so on. So all of this comes back then to subjectivity as the key element between differentiation and communion, something we need to draw into ourselves for the human energy to go forward. But relationality, connection, interdependence, interbeing. And at the heart of this, I think, is again what youth, what Indigenous leaders, what religious leaders are putting forward. This is a communion of subjects of which we are participating and finding our way forward. So let's turn over to Brian now, and then Sam is going to talk about his work with Journey and maybe the religion and ecology too. Brian, welcome. So good to see you.
Well, thank you, Mary Evelyn. Thank you. I don't see you, but I hear you. Oh, there you are. So good to be here. And you know, I have something I want to say, but I got on a little bit late. You've heard the story about how too many people are trying to get in. So I was wondering, Mary Evelyn, John, have things changed? And would you like something different from me than what we planned?
No, I think what you planned is perfect.
Do you remember what it was? Just checking.
Yes, it's just perfect, and it's right over to you because you heard everything from our part. When you joined, that was the new beginning. Let's
Okay,
just
so
say.
you actually don't remember what I'm going to do. That's all right. I'm fine. I'll just jump into it. Here we go. So I wanted to tell the story of how we got the title. The title, all right. The title, Journey of the Universe. I mean, it really sounds like a dull topic, I know, but I'm going to connect it up. So we had a vote. We had a vote. We did research and had a vote on topics in the backyard of John and Mary Evelyn. It was 4 of us, John and Mary Evelyn, and Denise and myself. And so I wrote up ballots. I mean, we had different titles on there. And we ended up with a tie. It was a tie between the heart of the universe and the epic of the universe. And so we took these 2 titles and we ran them by Thomas. And he sort of looked at us and he said, they're both missing the point. He said, it's about a journey. You know, it's about a journey. Do you remember that? Yeah. So but naming is so important. It sets an energy in motion. So I want to tell you why I love that Thomas really named Journey of the Universe. Journey is about a movement of time, whereas universe has a sense of an enduring spatial presence. And we lucked out. So we got them both there. A journey through time and a kind of eternity, because our lives are that. So I'm just gonna end with an image from time and a relationship to space. Bring those two together. Here we go. One of the great things that we've learned, one of the truly great things that we've learned is that for 3 billion years, life consisted of a unicellular organisms, single cells. And each of these was smaller than the sharp end of a pin. So, we couldn't even see them. So we would be there for 3 billion years watching them, and we couldn't even see them if we were there. And yet, these cells gathered together and became all those animals Mary Evelyn was talking about, bees and trees and orcas, humans. I mean, we will never understand all of the intricacies of that transformation, but we know it happened. We know it happened. We know that we live in a universe where things come together and give birth to profound beauty. Now, so it's so important for us to remember that we are immersed in time. Things are changing. We have to take the time scale of the universe. We have to dwell in that kind of creative power, because that's what's taking place right now. And now to connect this with the universe, what endures through the ages is the dynamic that brings fragments into unity. Fragments, these cells are fragments in the sense that they're disparate, and then they're brought into the unity, of a whale. So we are here for just a flash, but we want to give we want to witness our deep faith in the movement towards unity. So we live in a time of fragmentation. We have political fragmentation. We have racism, sexism. We have the alienation. All of these are in process, and they are moving towards a profound, differentiated unity of harmony. We're in the midst of it, and we participate in that movement. So, journey of the universe is as a phrase is to bring that dynamic into our minds, and that's it. Sam, where's Sam?
Thank you, Brian. And Sam, I just want to say, as a graduate student in religion and ecology at the Divinity School at Yale, he's also he's been a teacher at the Hotchkiss School here in Connecticut. He has been outstanding in terms of understanding Thomas and reaching out for Journey of the Universe, and also religion and ecology. So we're thrilled to have this intergenerational handshake with Sam. And over to you. Thanks, Sam, for being here.
Thanks so much for your kind words, Mary Evelyn, and thanks to Tom and Pierre and Brian, Elizabeth, everybody who made this special occasion possible. I wanted to start by reading some excerpts from a passage that have been really resonant for me in connecting with Thomas Berry as somebody I never knew in person, but whom I feel like I've grown to know through the amazing teachers I've been so blessed to work with, Mary Evelyn and John, and reading Brian's work. So this essay, The Meadow Across the Creek, comes from the great work and is also featured in Thomas Berry's biography. And it reads, "I was a young person then, some 12 years old. My family was moving from a more settled part of a southern town out to the edge of town where the new house was still being built. The house, not yet finished, was situated on a slight incline. Down below was a small creek, and there across the creek was a meadow. It was an early afternoon in May when I first looked down over the scene and saw the meadow. The field was covered with lilies rising above the thick grass. A magic moment. This experience gave to my life something. I know not what, that seems to explain my life at a more profound level than almost any other experience I can remember." And he later continues, "This early experience, it seems, has become normative for me throughout the range of my thinking. Whatever preserves and enhances this meadow and the natural cycles of its transformation is good. What is opposed to this meadow or negates it is not good. My life orientation is that simple." And some months ago, as I was carrying forward this work with the Journey of the Universe project and with the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology, I actually had a dream where I saw Thomas Berry down in this childhood meadow that I had imagined. And I walked down this field and felt myself joining him there. And I wanted to share that because it felt like confirmation that though I never met Thomas Berry in person, I was meant to join him in this journey of taking up the great work and trying to bring that to younger generations. Now, as Mary Evelyn and John mentioned, I was fortunate to be a teacher of philosophy and religion at an independent boarding school in Northwest Connecticut before coming to graduate school. And so naturally, I've been drawn to the idea of how do we teach younger generations the story of the universe? And in that vein, I've been so fortunate that Mary Evelyn and John and Brian have allowed me to work as an educational outreach coordinator for the Journey of the Universe project. So in that capacity, I've been really fortunate to help facilitate film screenings at a variety of different educational and social venues and discussions ranging from high school students to adult learning communities. I've also been lucky to help publish a monthly newsletter where we bring attention to different initiatives related to deep time, related to the journey, the universe story, and the abundant creativity being unleashed from this perspective. We're also fortunate to be launching a new podcast featuring interviews with folks who are inspired by the universe story and bringing that forward into their creative work in a variety of vocational directions. And finally, I wanted to mention that I've been so fortunate to partner with some educators from around the country, some of whom are here today, to develop resources for adolescent educators, secondary school teachers, to teach the story of the universe in a way that's differentiated and accessible for young people who are craving a sense of meaning, a sense of belonging in this fragmented world that Brian spoke to. So our hope is to present an integral approach to learning that grounds young people as the inheritors of this vast cosmic journey and empowering them to participate in the great work of helping to birth an ecozoic era of human earth flourishing. And the last project I'll mention is I'm so fortunate to help Mary Evelyn and John to create these 6 massive open online courses, which will be launched in the coming weeks on Coursera, that feature the ecological dimensions of the world's religions and the ways in which religious leaders across the globe are galvanizing the environmental initiatives, whether it's at COP26 or through protest movements, through activism across the globe. These are going to be a remarkable resource that draw in many ways on Thomas's Thomas Berry's call for religions to evoke the psychic energies needed to realize the great work of our time. So I'm so fortunate to participate in those various projects and indebted to all, the conveners of this panel, to Thomas Berry, and to all those who have made this occasion possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam,
Good
so
work.
much.
Good work, Sam.
Really, really grateful. Thank you, thank you. And it's, I can't tell you what a joy it is for John and I to work with Sam. We have so much fun together and great conversations all the time. Someone has just asked about the podcasts, I think that Sam mentioned. They're not yet, only one is done and needs to be edited. So they're just at their initial stage. So there's no name. They're not yet released, but you'll hear about them. But there are podcasts, as you may know, for Journey of the Universe, 20 conversations that you can watch by video or podcasts. They were made into podcasts over the last year of conversations with scientists, environmentalists, educators. It includes Drew Dellinger on this call, Carl Anthony, and others. So I think you'll enjoy those podcasts as well. So we have a time, I think, for some questions. If you want to put a question in chat, or if you want to raise your hand and make a small comment or question, that would be great.
Mary Evelyn, do you want the video? Remember
Oh,
you have
the video, that's right.
3 minutes.
Sure, let's do that. Perfect.
Okay.
Mhm. Thomas Berry's long life spanned the major events of the 20th century, from the First World War at the time of his birth to significant climate and ecological disruption, from electrical energy to solar energy, from community phone lines to computers, from horse and buggy to placing a man on the moon. He sought throughout his life to make sense of these changes.
He was widely read in world history and religions and lived immersed in the narratives of time that were continually expanding, from human history to earth history to universe history.
Thomas Berry sought a way to be grounded in the great vessel of life, the cosmos, and evoke this with the power of story, which elevated the voices of birdsong and migrations, revered the living forests and ancient mountains, evoked the roaring power of oceans and rivers.
There are few people who have grappled for so long to bring forth a healing vision for the Earth community, a term he created to indicate our shared sense of belonging to something greater, humans and nature in continuity.
Yet, he intuited at a very early age that something was being lost, something in the depths of the integral functioning of the planet itself with the race to industrialize and modernize.
Humans, he felt, are not simply political or economic entities, but biocultural beings amidst the vast diversity of life systems and species.
He recognized the power of an evolutionary story to engage humans in the great questions. Where have we come from? How do we belong? Why are we here?
This led to his signature essay, The New Story, in 1978. A new story of the universe, he felt, could help humans become mutually enhancing participants in a multicultural planetary civilization as cultures came in contact around the globe, often for the first time.
Next, with Brian Thomas Swimme, he worked for over a decade to write the universe story, a grounding for the transformations that he saw were needed for a new period in human history.
Today, Berry's perspective adds fresh energy and urgency to what he called the great work, namely, what each person and community can contribute to a flourishing future. As he would say, this work is for the future generations of all species.
Thank you. that was done by Cosmos, which is an online magazine, and you can look for it if you need to and use it as you like on the Thomas Berry website. So now, if there's questions or comments, thoughts, reflections, Tom?
Mary Evelyn, before you do that, maybe we can have a little bit of closing, because we said 9:15, 6:15, and then we'll go into the questions if that's okay.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, great. So I just want to take this opportunity to invite all of us. I'm kind of a inclusive person, and we just saw, the books that were written and the projects being shared by all of us, and especially the Journey of the Universe tonight. I'd like to invite all of us to we need to celebrate a little bit together. So how about if we just, whatever you want to do, but let's for like 15 seconds, just give a Yahoo to all the work that's being done in the Universe Story and Thomas Berry's birthday and Teilhard. Just whatever you can do, a sign of a Milky Way, like
Yahoo!
or the
Yahoo!
or the primordial flaring forth, or
Yahoo!
humans. Look at all the people and the cheer, whatever you want to do. But I want everybody to be able to feel like we're part of this, because we're not going to hear from everybody around the world, 100 people that are doing the great work. Thomas Berry and Teilhard and all of us have been following through, especially for the last 60, 70 years. So I just want to really thank everyone for your being here and participation. Encourage you to stay on for questions with Mary Evelyn and John and Brian and Sam and myself. And thank everybody, Pierre, for putting the IT together for this, my great companion in this journey. And Elizabeth for her beautiful sharing tonight as well. And for all of you who've been a part of the Universe Story calendar, the journey, all of our different projects over the last whatever years. We range a lot of years here are celebrated in educating those around the world on the Universe Story and subjectivity and interiority. So with that, I want to hand it back over to Mary Evelyn. One last thing again, if you do want a PDF copy of the 2022 the Universe Story calendar, please email me through my website and we can get you one. Mary Evelyn.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for your inclusive hug to everybody. So again, to include that spirit of we're all in this together, any comments, questions? Yeah, I see a hand from Carl.
Thank you, Mary Ellen, and thank you for this whole presentation. Two comments. The song about the trees was beautiful, but I've been pondering the fact that a tree is part of a forest, and forests are constantly moving in response to the environment in which they find themselves. And I think of it in terms of the universe. And here we are on this planet called Earth. And we too think in some terms that it's always stable, like the tree, but it's constantly moving. And everything is in a process of becoming. So just another way of perceiving the reality that something that we think as stable is not really stable. The other comment I have was we were talking about teaching the young children, but if we watch little children, they have within them a deep sense of subjectivity. And for me, the big question is, how do we help them preserve their sense of subjectivity, and not how do we teach them what, now that we've taken it away from them with our education that we do and have been doing for so long. So those are my 2 comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. I think our
yes.
foresters at Yale fully understand the movement, the dynamic, creative dimensions of forests, and that's what's becoming more and more clear to lots of people. And I want to give a big shout out to Jennifer Morgan and her Deep Time Journey Network, the leadership group that she's working on, which has been noted in the chat, because she's, along with the lineage of Maria Montessori, has been highlighting, of course, education, but particularly as Maria Montessori did, for children. So yes, and yes, big yes to your comments. Bud, I think you have comments, questions.
Thank you so much. You know, you have inspired me to tell my story. My ancestor, George Perkins Marsh, is known as the father of the American conservation movement. He published Man and Nature in 1864. And Gifford Pinchot had a copy of that on the mantle in his farmhouse in Pennsylvania. As you know, the founder of Yale School of Forestry and our whole national forest, national park system. It's absolutely incredible. There's so many. We have so many connections. I'm gonna have to write it down, but. I want to your work with the Earth Charter and my birthday, April 18th, 1993, was when Gorbachev incorporated Green Cross International. So thank you.
Yeah, but I just want to comment that COP26 now goes back right to George Perkins Marsh's observation that human activity could be deleterious, and his study of the Greece and the Mediterranean loss of tree cover due to human activities really gave us the earliest understandings of the problematic relationships of human with yours. So good point.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So many people in this chat. I just want to also give a shout out to Joe Mitchell and his work in Louisville, and he's a passionist like Thomas. So again, many of you have done such great work. John Sargent, a wonderful family who's been so open and hospitable to us. Big thanks for being here. And your conservation work means so much to all of us. Elizabeth, would you like to go next? And then Ron. Elizabeth,
hello. Yeah. Yes, so just call me Bing.
Yeah.
I'd like to connect with Elizabeth. Thank you for your poem. I changed my background. That's our national tree here in the Philippines, the Nada tree. I'm down below. It's a tall tree in Sierra Madre. And I also would like to connect with Sam. When you told us that you dreamt about Thomas, I also remembered I dreamt about Thomas when I was in Antarctic Ecology Center in Ireland. And I dreamt of I was dancing in a spiral space, like the universe. And I saw this great light at the heart of that spiral. And so I danced towards that light. And when I came near that light, it was Thomas holding a candle, a burning candle. And I came out of a mandala. I drew a mandala of him. If it's okay to share screen, Pierre. I'd love to share this mandala of Thomas. Can you allow me to share my screen? I'm just excited about this mandala. It's my first time to show other people.
Let's
I
see.
can
I don't know
share
how
the
to do it.
screen yet.
I think you can. Yeah.
Host disabled participants screening. So maybe you can make me for a moment a co-host.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna do. There you go.
Okay, so here's Thomas. So he was at the center of that spiral holding a candle. So I came near him and I wrote a poem when I was just gazing at this mandala. The title is Sacred Fire, Cosmic Christ, and speaks a lot of our theme today, flaring forth sacred fire, cosmic Christ, love energy made visible and made flesh, unable to contain yourself in God's heart alone. You burst yourself into flames, dancing throughout all directions, radiating God's luminous light, incarnating God's benevolent being. Sacred fire, cosmic Christ, burning flame of God's love, illumine our minds, transform our hearts, recreate our spirits, flare forth anew in us and through us, and overcome the darkness that is now threatening the life of Earth, our planet home. Thank you for allowing me to share with you this
Thank you, Bing.
artwork.
Thanks, Bing. Appreciate that. Lovely to have you here. Ron, thank you, Bing.
Just a quick hello. You had told the story before about how Journey of the Universe was second to Cosmos. You were very close to having it be the PBS special, but I had never heard the story about the title. Now, as some of you know, I come from an advertising background and branding is important. Thomas Berry's a genius, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, we were lucky to be on PBS and then Netflix and now Amazon. And I see
Right,
Paloma.
that's right.
Yeah, Ron, thanks so much for that comment and appreciate your brevity too. Thank you. Paloma, I see your hand up.
This is Carl wanting to speak. Go ahead, Carl.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes, I want to say this because we've been very moved, both having met with Thomas Berry at the end of his life and then also with Brian Swimme and Mary Evelyn Tucker. And the thing that we discovered in all this wonderful appreciation of the animals and the grasses and the trees, all of these moments, the moment when human beings emerge in the Rift Valley is also a really important moment. And we had the opportunity, when we think about all of the confusion about race and racism and all this, to have a moment when the reality of this emergence within the history of the universe gives us a particular significance and enables us to ground our understanding of who we are against the reality that much of the history has been taught is that we don't exist. We, speaking of African American, but then we look at all the people of color across the world, including the 63% of the population, people of color in California. We discovered that each and every human being has a story that goes back to the origin of human beings. And we need to know more about these stories, about especially the people who've been marginalized and erased from our narratives about the history of human beings, to also to place this history in the context of a larger universe story. So I'm really very appreciative of Brian Swimme and Mary Evelyn Tucker, and especially Thomas Berry, who really gave us this opportunity to place our story amidst all of the magnificent stories of all the beings on Earth, and we don't know, maybe in some other planets as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I want to just give a big shout out to Carl with this fabulous book on the city
The Earth, the
universe, and
City, and the Hidden
the hidden-
Narrative of Race.
Thank you, the hidden narrative of race. And I also just want to say we've released a huge part of our website on eco-justice just about 10 days ago. And it's to show the religious communities and their work on it. And John, did
The
you want to-
creativity, Carl, that you bring forward so eloquently in your work these many years of the contributions of people of color to understanding our relationship with the world through their stories. And I have my own encounter in terms of language loss. When people's marginalized lose their language, just think of what we lose, this whole sense of so many words for understanding this human earth relationship. So thanks, Carl and Paloma, for your good work.
Yeah, and John's work with Indigenous peoples complements all of that. And I want to jump over to Carrie as a student at PCC and make sure she has a chance to get in. So thanks, Carl. Thanks, Paloma.
Thanks, Mary Evelyn. I just wanted to share a very short story on Thomas and then ask a brief question. So I'm a PCC student at CIS and I'm studying bioregionalism. And Thomas wrote about bioregionalism and the Dream of the Earth. And I've been getting to know David Henke over the last year, who could be considered one of the fathers of bioregionalism. And he fondly remembers Thomas standing at the sink washing dishes with an apron on at the first bioregional Congress.
Good.
And David thinks of Thomas as a spiritual father. That's what he told me, which I just think is very beautiful. And then as I go forward in my studies, I'm interested in combining the thoughts of Whitehead and Barry. And it's surprising to me that Barry doesn't mention Whitehead in the great work or the Dream of the Earth, and it's only once in the universe story. And so I'd love for anyone to just drop any resources that you have in the chat on that topic or combining both Whitehead and Barry. And thank you so much for this event. It's really lovely.
Thanks. I think Brian might want to comment, but Thomas, I think, felt we needed story, and Whitehead had philosophy, but not story. So, but Brian, do you want to comment on that at all? Or should we keep taking questions? Because Brian,
yeah, one quick thing. It's a kind of a joke, but it's, I don't know, it's amusing. I was talking to Thomas one time and I said, why do you focus on Teilhard so much? Why not Alfred North Whitehead more? And he said, and then he said, well, I would have studied Whitehead more if he had just written in English. I mean, it's really, really hard to understand. But yeah, and Matt Siegel, of course, is the person to check with Whitehead about Whitehead in PCC. But the person you might want to contact, Carrie, is Herman Green, because he's a devotee of Thomas Barry and of Whitehead. And he's had a long history with John and Mary Evelyn, so they surely would be able to provide his email.
Yeah.
Yep, good idea. Okay, and Sam King put in the eco-justice URL. Now I think Bud and then Joy, and we might be needing to wind up just for people, but Bud, and if you can both be brief, that would be excellent. Bud.
No, I had my hand up before, but
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. Your hand is still up. So sorry, Joy.
Thank you. And happiness comes from gratitude, John. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thanks, Joy.
Hi. I just figured out how to raise my hand, so that's why I'm late in the game.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that I'm so overwhelmingly grateful because so many of my lifelong teachers are on this video and friends, and raising children in the universe story. I just wanted to say, people are saying how to get it to the young people. And I just wanted to share that my children's birth story always starts with 13.8 billion years ago. And the other piece, I mean, it's everything. It permeates everything, the universe story that I do and parent. But The other piece is, and I know Jean has heard this before, but there's that saying, I love you to the moon and back. And we always say, I love you to the furthest expansion of the universe in this moment. And then they'll say, no, this moment, no, this moment. And so I think just changing the language and incorporating it into our everyday life, you know, I could think of a million things that make us weird because we do that. But thank you, Brian and Jean and Larry especially.
Oh, so wonderful.
Yeah.
That's super. Well, as I said, in the interest of time, I just want to shout out so many names here. Lauren DeBoer, your wonderful journal, Belvy and Didon, and your companionship with us. Betsy Crawford, your wonderful newsletter. Mary Elizabeth Moore, who was Dean of the School of Theology at BU. Ron Phipps, who's doing great work with Whitehead. Sean Layden in the Philippines, Sam and Paula and their universe story oratorio work. Drew, your amazing poetry and all your teaching in various parts of the world. Dan Troy in China, thank you for taking us to where Teilhard worked, did his scientific work, a very moving afternoon and time with you in China. Judy Emery, Terry Dupuy, thank you all. What a great journey. I wish I could name every single one of you.
Especially all our Canadian friends, so many of you online tonight. So good to be with you.
Yeah, I think they had to jump off because of the hour. Okay, so Tom and Elizabeth, I want to give a big shout out to Pierre, to Elizabeth for your beautiful song, to Sam for your continued great work, to Brian for all of your both humor and stories and wisdom.
Hey, Brian.
Jean and Larry, so good to see you.
Totally. Tom, thank you for being the spirit bringer for this event. And
my pleasure.
Any last words, Tom?
Just gratitude, as Bud said, gratitude to everybody. Thank you for coming on the call. Have a great celebration. This week is the week of science and development. Tomorrow is the day of Science and Development Day for the United Nations, which is perfect for Thomas Berry. So
great.
Keep on celebrating, everybody. The universe story. Take care.